I can't imagine that I would feel open enough to, like, talk smack with them. You know what I mean?
Hi, I'm Andy.
And I'm Roger.
And welcome to The Middle,
where we try to have thoughtful conversations
about awkward topics
on our search to find the middle.
We're going to give you last week's news today.
It's a slogan we should put on a t-shirt.
Stop touching her! I am tonight announcing my candidacy.
Taylor Swift.
Look, my biggest issue with marriage is that I think that it's a fundamentally flawed institution that is built on the oppression of women.
I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny.
Having truly rational conversations about controversial issues is risky these days.
Andy.
Roger, how you going?
Yeah, not too bad. I've actually been on a bit of a wild goose chase for a custom and very rare oversized Labubu for my daughter's birthday.
Oh, Labubus. Oh, this is going to trigger certain people in my household.
Well, you know, I have done the odd trading in some illicit Labubu dealings, but this was a special one. So basically, she has gone off menu and requested the only Labubu that is impossible to get for her birthday. And you know, it's she's turning 10. She wants this Labubu, and I can't get it at retail. So I've had to go into the deep dark world of Facebook Marketplace. All right, and you can imagine, like, Labubus for the uninitiated are these. They're kind of like Beanie Boos and Beanie Babes or whatever they're called. They're like a collectible trend. Okay, so they're these little fluffy collectibles that are very, very rare. They're sold by Pop Mart, and they're the reason why Pop Mart's founder is now a billionaire or something. Right? They're very, very popular. Celebrities have them, and they restrict the supply really, really bad to create this artificial buzz. So anyway, I'm trying to get one. I finally find this place, and of course it's a minefield because as soon as you go secondhand, everyone's trying to pass off these fake Labubus, or as they're called in the circles, Lafufus. And it's really hard to tell, and there's this convoluted process to way to check and everything. Anyway, I found one actually, and I picked it up yesterday and paid way too much for it in cash, of course, to this Chinese lady. And yeah, the whole thing was really dodgy. It was like a drug deal. Like, we met at a third location that wasn't her home, wasn't her work. She had the goods. I had to kind of inspect it and ask ChatGPT to authenticate it for me, and there are these PIN codes that you have to try to, validate against the Pop Mart website, but sometimes even those can be faked. And then you got to check that actually the codes match what's on the actual Labubu. Anyway, I got it. Long-winded way.
So are you confident you didn't get swindled?
I'm confident now. There's enough data points that I think that we're doing okay. And also this one's very rare, so it is a bit harder to counterfeit. But anyway, she showed me the actual receipt of when she bought it, and let's just say she did turn a little bit of a profit, which good for her. She's held it for a couple of years.
Can I just ask, are these Labubus, are they like the same price retail no matter which one it is? It's just that the rare ones.
No. Even this one, because it's a rare one, and it's literally like 5 times the size of a normal Labubu, was more expensive at retail as well. But because of its status, it's even more expensive on the second-hand market. Anyway, so I'm now in possession of this Labubu, and there we go. But what I wanted to ask you was, the lady that I met, right? So she's a Chinese lady. I don't know whether you've ever noticed this. Maybe you can pretend that you haven't. But there's this thing how they she was a young lady. She was probably in her 20s, maybe her mid-20s, and she had fairly kind of tanned body, but her face was powdered white. You know, like. What is the deal with that? And this is not the first time that you've seen that. And then it leads to this whole thing about white beauty standards. You know, the stuff that the wokies are always talking about, that actually we live in a white supremacist society, and whiteness is, next to godliness, which is next to beauty. And it's kind of true that there is this obsession in Asian cultures that the fairer you are, the more attractive you are, right? What's your take here? Are Asians inherently racist?
This is quite the left turn. I thought you were going to ask me some deep philosophical question about
consumerism
how status-seeking kids are, that they have to have the rare one, just like adults have to have the Rolex.
This is the Rolex of
Labubus, yeah. All right, let's tackle the white pride issue. So it is 100% a thing, but it's I don't think it's for the reasons of like, maybe for completely different reasons that sit outside a broader like white Western culture like context, right? So it doesn't sit within, you know, if we try and apply like a Western lens where, you know, you have white people and black people and, you know, coloured people are like, you know, that story doesn't fit within, like, this phenomenon doesn't sit within that context, right? So it's a completely different phenomenon. But what I understand it to be is it's 100% about if you're a labourer and you work outside and you have tan skin, you're typically the underclass. And if you don't work outside, you're of higher status, right? And that's where it all comes from, right? So this idea of not having exposure to sun, it's like this signal that if you're tan, that you're some kind of like low status, low rent human being kind of thing. So, and that probably exists within like an Asian context that's completely removed from when we talk about like white and coloured people, and like it doesn't fit within that paradigm.
It's interesting because absolutely the whole paddy worker, the tanned paddy worker toiling away under the sun, is the usual explanation for this behaviour. It's a good one because it's true, and also it predates this whole colonialism kind of stuff, because this kind of shit was happening in the dynasties, even in China, right? Like the powdering of the face and geishas and all sorts of things. But I don't know if it is that, forgive me, black and white, because what's muddled in here is actually the Western influence, is the colonialization of things, and like it's also I think that it would be remiss to say that white beauty standards haven't had a bit of an impact, because it's not just, this is a one data point in a pretty consistent pattern towards Anglo-Saxon beauty, right? You see, it's not just the white skin. It's a lot of these Korean and Southeast Asian and Chinese ladies are having eyelid surgeries to make their eyes bigger and more westernized. They're having nose surgeries to give themselves bridges so that they can look like the Western movie stars and things like that. Like, there's a long list of things that are correlated that kind of give off the signal that the white ideals of beauty are superior to maybe the Eastern.
I don't know if I completely accept that. I don't think they're shooting to look like a Anglo-Saxon white person, right? I don't think that's not the beauty standard they're actually going for. Like, I think there's like a very clear Asian kind of model of beauty that is very distinct from like Western or European influence, right? So I think if you look at like K-pop and you look at movie stars, Asian movie stars, like they've got their own fashion icons, their own beauty icons.
16-year-old schoolgirl, is that what you mean? Yeah, well,
let's call it out. Like, that's what that is. That's the idea of, that's the beauty standard they're going for. They're not, of course I'm not like part of that culture, so I can only look at this from the sidelines, but I don't think they're like, maybe to put it a different way, if you're in the equivalent of a newsagent in Korea or Shanghai or Tokyo or one, choose your destination.
Do they still have them?
Well, probably not. If you look at the magazine covers, you're far more likely to see on the cover an Asian representation of beauty than a Western person. So I don't know that this notion, and of course there's like, we're part of like a culture, right, where there's different influences intermingle, and we have this, so it's not untrue what you're saying. Of course there's Western influences that come in, but yeah, I don't know, I think that's like a little bit like saying Japanese food is like, aspirationally Western because they've got a few like spaghetti houses like dotted around Tokyo. Like, I think they might incorporate certain Western influences, but like, I think True North is very much still an Asian-owned product. Yeah,
look, I mean, I'm not so sure, and I know that this stuff is different. Your mileage may vary depending on your own place in the cohort, but I do. You could say the same about how back in Victorian times the sexy men and women were all fatties, right? Because the same signal was being broadcast that, hey, if you've got food, you're rich, right? But that hasn't survived into modern times, and I'm not sure this whole worker in the rice paddy thing is totally legit either. But anyway, let's move on.
The last thing I just want to say on that is there's plenty of now, I think, white women or Western women who aspire to Asian beauty standards. So whether it's...
Whoa. What kind of Asian beauty standards?
Oh, like...
We're talking about the westernized ones? We're just talking about...
No. I mean, like, you know, the ones that like are into like cosplay and all that kind of stuff, right?
You tell me there's Australian women trying to look like Lizzo?
Lizzo?
Yeah.
What do you mean, Lizzo? The what do you say? How do you call them? Flutist?
No, you don't know who Lizzo is? The black
yeah,
singer?
she plays the flute.
Lizzo plays the flute.
Yeah.
I mean, we're speaking different languages right now.
No,
idea.
she's like that's her instrument is the flute.
Lizzo, the R&B singer,
the proudly fat, or dare I say obese singer.
Oh, I thought you were going to soften it, not or should I say curvaceous?
Yeah, she's got like I don't. What's her biggest song? It's got the flute. I promise you, like I'm not making this up.
You've educated me. You've
I've come one up.
diminished my ignorance, but in the wrong theatre.
I'm like a super fan of Lizzo. Hang on, how does she come up in a conversation about Asian beauty standards?
We're just talking about like white women crossing over into like Eastern or non-white beauty standards.
Yeah, I just mean that, like, you know, it's a two-way street. It might be that there's a few more lanes in the northbound than there are southbound, but there's definitely like, you know, European women who I think like and maybe if we want to be more specific, there's also a very large cohort of men who are attracted to Asian women.
Ah, yes, the old yellow fever.
So, well, I didn't want to put it in those terms, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So, what do they call it? Banana fever.
It's yellow fever.
What's banana fever? Isn't that because it's like yellow on the outside, white on the inside, or something?
Haven't heard that, but all I'm thinking about is Donkey Kong right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I did something interesting last night.
Yeah, tell me.
I went speed dating.
Speed dating. Oh, is everything okay back home?
Yeah. So, so I actually went with the wife.
Whoa.
So
maybe I've misjudged you, Andy.
So I promise you, it wasn't a swingers event, but it was like, and actually, like, my wife found it and said, "Oh, let's do this." And it's so what it is it's like it's not romantic dating. It's like friends, like friendship, right? To like expand your like friendship horizon, right?
Wow.
But I do have a few observations and a few interesting like.
Give me the marketing headline first. Like, how do they advertise it? Oh,
it's like, you know, meet new people. Like, you know, it's not.
But do they have in like the title? This is not a swingers event.
Well, no. It's I can't actually remember how it's branded, but it's very clearly about friendships, right? It's I think that's a deliberate. Like it is certainly not. Like, well, put it this way, you get matched with like both like genders, right? So it's speed dating, but it's not man or like male female. It's like it's mixed, like everything, right?
And the language in here is fraught, isn't it?
But I do have a lot of not necessarily anecdotes, but like kind of some observations of this.
Give me the setting too, because when I hear this, I'm imagining some shitty school hall or something with a few tables set up.
So what it was like, you know, when there's certain kind of pubs or bars that don't do very well off their own bat, like they don't attract a crowd on their own, so they have to resort to things like Groupon, like advertising Groupon deals and stuff like that.
It's like events.
Yeah. So this was one of those places where it was an event, like a place you can have these kinds of things, right? So it was in like the beer garden of this particular bar, and I'm not going to lie, like I've just kind of shat all over it by saying it's like a Groupon-y type place, but it was that, but it was like it actually was an okay like experience, right? Because it was, you know, it was like a pretty relaxed sort of beer garden. It had a very like, you know, I don't know if you've ever been to like Thailand or Bali, and you've got those kind of places where, you know, the food's not great, but like you can get like a club sandwich and fries, shoestring fries kind of thing for like $5 or something, and a beer for like $3, and it's like the setting's a bit low rent, but it's okay. Like it's actually kind of even pleasant,
cheap and
right?
cheerful.
Yeah. So it was a little bit like that. It had that kind of a vibe. So they did have like the beer garden type thing, but there were, and so the idea was that it was like the whole of the beer garden was just these people, right? These people at this event. There were a couple of others that kind of found their way in, sort of, that weren't part of the, you know, the broader like event.
Some fence jumpers. They let in a few swingers.
Yeah. So it was, but it was okay. It was all right, but it wasn't a school hall. Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, how was it quite curated, or was there a host that was making sure that everyone was moving when the bell rang?
Okay. So apparently the host didn't show up. So that was like this whole thing that, there's no host here kind of thing. But it's all app based, right? So you have like something like, I think it's 7 minutes, and you get a little ding and you go, like, because you sign up. Yeah, it actually costs money to go. You had to sign up, and you put in a photo so you know who to look for, and then you have 7 minutes. You talk about like whatever, and then you get a notification and it's actually really awkward because you get the notification while you're talking to someone, and no one wants to be the first person to say, we've got to end, like, because it's like, it seems rude to like end the conversation early. And so I always felt like, it seems like it goes all against your natural instincts to pick up your phone in mid-conversation and say, I've got to go now. Like, you know.
Yeah. I thought it. So it's not happening all together. So people it's not like circuit training where
it is.
Goes off and everyone
it is. Yeah, everyone goes, but it's like there's no audible, like, collective, like ding, ding, ding. It's all like your app says, now go and find this person. And so your phone might make a little sound or whatever, or you might get a notification, but it's not like a hard, like, school bell going off kind of thing. So you have to pick up your phone and that seems wrong, right? It, like, picking up your phone mid-conversation, like, seems like it goes against like what you understand to be the polite, sort of respectable way to behave kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Well, next question. Talk to me about the people. Like, what's the cohort like? Ages? Are they a bunch of weirdos? What's going on?
All right. So this is where I have some observations. No particularly striking anecdote about anyone individually, but like as a collective, right? So to begin with, there's this weird sort of dance that happens because it's all about friendships, right? But like everyone there is actually like, they're all single. Like they're not there for friendships. They're just like, so, and that plays different, like, for both ways, right? So for the women there, they're probably women who've been burned by like Tinder and stuff like that. And they don't want like these men who just want to go straight to, like, that don't want anything serious, right? Or this is my guessing, right? So they want to say, look, I'm just going to meet people. I'm going to meet them on like the basis of friendship, and then if it turns into something else, like you meet them and you know them, and then it all happen organically.
It's like a safe space with that.
And exactly. Whereas the framing of like Tinder is like, this is what we're here for, right? So the framing's different. I think that's what a lot of the women are there for, because like virtually every. And so you have to bear in mind, I was there with my wife, right? So,
okay, you finish that. I've got
so like
banking up here.
All right, so for the women, they I don't think any of them had like partners. Certainly not there with them. There was the only exception. There was one like younger girl. Like when I say girl, like she was probably late 20s. She just moved from the Netherlands, right? So but she actually has a partner. Like she. Here, but he didn't come, right? So she was probably more genuinely like, you know, about the friendship kind of thing, or just meeting people new to the country. But every other one was like, the classic, the quintessential, like, I've been burned by Tinder, I'm trying something different now. Like, I'm like, and just even the way they described their lives, it was very, either they referred to like my ex-husband, or they referred to like just their lifestyle being clearly they're like on their own, like kind of almost like aspirations of van life, like that kind of, you know, it was a very solo kind of, or like even just on weekends I like to watch Netflix, you know, at home with my cat or something, right? Like age-wise, definitely sort of... Okay, so I haven't talked about the men yet, but for the women, probably towards the older side. Like, and when I say older, I don't mean like, 50, 60 kind of thing.
Like
but
our
like,
age.
Yeah, well, like, definitely like, 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not even 30s, actually, probably 40s and 50s. So that's the women. For the men, so there was like, okay, so this is where it gets a little bit more like, almost like funny, right?
Before you do that though, Andy, what was the ratio?
Oh, it was actually reasonably 50-50, and the reason it was 50-50, they actually charged men more to go, which, well, I think they did this, they had this little way of like kind of handling it. They had like early bird specials, so they had lots of tickets for women at the early bird, and for men, like, they're all sold out. So I had to pay more than my wife, which is like, oh, what the fuck? Anyway, all that to one side, the men there, so a bit of a mix for the men. I don't think there was anyone else there like me. Like, I only met one or two other men. Oh, he was so nice.
But you matched with men.
I did. Well, I had a couple of matches, but I think they were all there, like, almost on the, like, and even some of them apparently, because I heard off my wife afterwards, like, they thought it was like, they didn't realize it was friends, like, thing. So they were like, oh, what? This is, and like, I had this guy, like, he definitely was on the spectrum, and because I matched with him, and he kept like, he kept saying like, he just like, because, when you're meeting people that in a non-romantic kind of setting, right, you just go, oh, like, so what's the deal? Like, what are you into? Kind of like, you have that kind of just tell me about yourself, what do you get up to, just those kind of let them talk about themselves kind of thing, right? Using Dale Carnegie's tools.
That's well practiced.
Yeah, so, just let them talk about themselves, and just this guy is just like non-stop complaining, like, oh, I didn't know this was friends. Oh, they need to fix it. This is... It just like went straight into like complaining mode about the app. I'm like, oh, well, can't help you with that. I'm just going to go over there. Just like, just because
when he matched with a man, would that be the first giveaway?
The other thing is like they actually did these pairs of matches by gender first. So it was really weird. So they had all the male-female matches like to start the night, and then it flipped to like do the same-sex kind of matches. And I think they needed, like, I think that poor girl from the Netherlands, I think she was there to meet other women, like, just genuinely women friends.
On some kind of network.
Yeah. And she just had probably this relentless, like, stream of, like, balding kind of dudes who, like, were coming onto her. Like, it was...
Oh, man. All right. Okay. And so the age of the men older?
Not necessarily that they were old. Probably actually not a dissimilar age distribution. And I want to be like fair to all the guys there, because I didn't meet them, so I actually didn't know what they were there for. But I just know that there was some who openly said that they thought it was for like romantic dating, right? So I don't. And the other thing is like my wife got on the group chat that the girls set up afterwards, and they're like deliberately saying, I don't want the guys knowing my number, so can we just make this the girls only?
Oh my God.
So I think, and then I was saying, oh yeah, some of the girls were saying like the guys were a bit not very good to talk to or whatever. Although I do just want to say, my wife did say, oh yeah, when I matched with the girl, she said you were good to talk to, as in I was good to talk to. So
of course.
So I'm excluding myself from the creeper crowd.
Andy, come on now. I've got so many questions and they're banking up that I'm starting to forget them, but let me let off a few. So, number one, how do the matches work? So what actually determines whether you get a match with someone in this cohort?
Well, I think notionally you're supposed to match with everyone. So you have the amount of time you're meant to match with.
So everyone gets a go.
You go around everyone. Yeah.
All right. Number two, did you feel like a dirty interloper? Because it sounds like... So when we started this conversation and you were describing it, I'm like, okay, this sounds actually quite wholesome. And this idea of, hard for men to make friends, blah, blah, blah. The more and more you've spoken about the event, the more and more I feel like, ooh, I'm getting like, every time I hear another line, I'm like, ooh. And it seems like it's just actually a dating thing in disguise.
Yeah, I think based on the people there, I think it's definitely dating adjacent, right? There's a cohort of people who, now I think, like, I've got to be really careful how I speak about it because I don't think that's universally the case. I think there's people who genuinely aren't interested in dating, but they just genuinely want to expand their circle and meet new people. So there was definitely people there like that. But there was definitely some people there who, when they're like, they don't want to, they would never say, oh, I'm here because I want to meet someone. I want to share my life with someone. No one would openly say that. But I think that's like their defense mechanism to, like, this is like almost like a safe space for them to enter the possibility that might happen, but without it like having any high expectations or hopes for what it might be. And I think there was definitely people there, certainly for the women who were there on those terms, but like just where they were in their stage of life, and I feel like they actually like that for them. Even if it's not all of the reason that they're there, it might only be only a third of the reason that they're there, but at least formed part of they're like, oh look, I need to just put myself out there and meet more people or whatever. For the men, though, I think on average they were much more
on the hunt. Well,
I didn't, as I said, match with many of them or have many conversations with other men, but...
Well, I thought you said everyone gets a go.
Well, I didn't, in the end, I didn't end up matching with... I had pretty much all my matches with women, and then like a couple of like dudes like fucked off before we matched because the men matches came towards the end of the night, right? So, but from what I've heard, like secondhand, is it was a bit more like on the hunt, and yeah.
Well, okay, and then finally, obviously, your wife was there, so surely she's had an experience with the men hitting on her.
Well, what she told me is she said up front, oh, just to let you know, I'm here with my husband, like to a few of them. And I said to her, oh, like, why would you start the conversation like that? Like, because it's for friends. Like, it's not, you don't have to start with, like, so I would weave it in. Like, I would say, oh, we've moved to Brisbane. Oh, I'm here actually with my wife or something like that. Like, I wouldn't say, just so you know, like, I'm here with my wife, just, I'm not up for, like, that's not how.
Andy, grow up. This is like prime real estate of why men and women are different. She knows, you're going to have to say that because of the context and the fact that... Yeah,
but like, I think to me, that's, if it's genuinely about like meeting friends, right? That's a weird thing to lead with for me. So I said to her, oh, like, how did you lead with that? Like, but anyway, she said she did. I think it was more, she said there was like a couple where they were like, they misunderstood the purpose of the day, right? So she was upfront on that basis. So the other thing is that like there were those who like weren't part of it, and like I kind of it made me realize like a couple of things. Like there's this one, like, okay, don't get me wrong, like all the women, you could have a conversation with them, and you could find some areas of common interest or whatever, but like it is, in terms of genuine friendship, like I can't imagine like any of the women that I don't know how many, there was like probably 7 or 8 that I had conversations with. I can't imagine any of them being my friends. Like I can't.
Why is that?
Well, because I can't imagine like you, and it might be in my head rather than an actual real thing, but like I can't imagine that I would feel open enough to like talk smack with them. You know what I mean?
well, okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
Okay. And there's one other thing I want to add. There was like, as I said, there was this couple who weren't part of it, right? And they were a couple, or at least I think they were a couple, but they were like Irish.
Oh, they love a chat.
And like I was just like, it was such a better like social experience talking to this like Irish couple, like, and it just felt like, and like it wasn't like we barely spent any time with them, right? But just when you kind of that, like I can tell that like these are the kind of people who you can actually kind of go out and have fun with, right? You could go out and have a drink and have fun with them, and they were totally like that. And like it was, I even to the point where I said, the last time I was around Irish people, it was at the Oasis concert. And said, oh yeah, we were there. Like, it's just like nice. It just had that kind of a kind of a different thread. Like, not that these people like such great friends or something. But like, I just mean the vibe was completely different, where you can imagine like having like a few more drinks with them and having a really good night, even if you say goodbye for the, but you can imagine having a good night with them in such a way that I can't imagine with any of the other people.
Yeah. Well, hats off for doing the event. It's it's not something that obviously is very comfortable for most people to do. So I guess in a way, I'm actually quite jealous, because I love having these strange experiences and seeing the subculture and everything like that. So I would be interested in doing something similar, but maybe not under the guise of if it's a dating thing. Now, the bit that I think I'm zeroing in on a little bit is a question to you that at the end of the day, right, and reflecting on this event, does it really come down to the fact that no matter which angle you come in, how you spin it, that on average, men can't really be friends with women?
I think the fact that you had the women's WhatsApp group, that only the women were invited to join, and the very clear, I don't want any of the men that were there to be a member of this and get our numbers, that like says it all. And the feeling is probably mutual. Not necessarily that the men don't want the women to have their numbers, but like the women wanted to set up a friendship space that they could be part of. That was very much like women being friends together at the exclusion of men. And I think for men, maybe the reasons to like be separate are different. So I think for women, it's all about like trusting that the men aren't just there to like...
the intentions of it all.
Yeah. So that might be part of it. But in some settings, I think where men and women can have actually really good relationships, like outside of like a romantic one, it's actually in settings where there's there's something anchoring it, where it's not like the whole romantic thing's not on the table. So one might be like, let's say like work colleagues, right? Because I actually think the whole, like if you think about people you get on with at work, I don't think that whole like men-women thing divide is necessarily as strong. So like I think you can have women colleagues that you can get on with well, and male colleagues you get on with well. They don't necessarily have to be like, because that, I don't know, it's a different kind of dynamic. Whereas I think outside of work and outside of like these anchoring kind of, I just think it is like, and they all want to talk about different shit. Like we don't want to, like, let's be honest, like men don't want to talk about stuff that women want to talk about, and vice versa.
Well, I'm sure you can find some overlap, right? But the problem is, for me, at the end of the day, you have to find ways to diffuse what is inherently magnetic about the sexes and also threatening about the sexes, which is, physical and emotional intimacy. And so the best relationships between men and women have a way to diffuse that, like you said, to take it off the table, whether it's work, and that doesn't always work so successfully, but also things like when there's a big age gap, or when perhaps that both of them are in a committed relationship, or whatever it is. There has to be a way to diffuse it, right? For there to be the trust and the meaningful connection, because that is always hanging over these relationships, unfortunately. The latter is something that I have been thinking about a lot, actually, this idea of, having a friend, and I'm not talking about men versus women now, I'm just in general, having a friend that is from a very different generation than you. Like, that would be actually great, but it's just hard to facilitate for most people, right?
I think I've sort of thought a little bit about, because before we went, we were like, if this is totally embarrassing, we'll just have a laugh about it, and it'll just be one of those things that it was. And to be fair, it was actually a better experience than like I would have. Like if you asked me, like, was it better, on par, or worse than you expected going in? I would say it was probably better, and mainly because I think I just sort of treated it as like, I'll have a couple of drinks and I'll just chat away with some people, and I didn't necessarily have any expectations to get, like, I didn't exchange phone numbers with anyone, right? And it wouldn't even cross my mind to do that, because I wasn't there to like make lifelong friends. Like, it was just like, so it gave a bit of like a social dynamic, and it reminded me a little bit of, it's probably, if you ask me like what was my most energized sort of social experience in my life, right? I actually think it was when I lived abroad. I was expat, and everyone's kind of in the same boat, and you meet people and everyone's kind of willing to go out and just sort of, no one's got any anchors to take them, like the realities of life aren't there to like keep people,
Yeah.
you know,
Same with uni.
and that's probably the best like social environment that I can remember having, right? And it's so fleeting because, you know, it lasted for a year, and then I went home, and like a year, like, oh, it's all gone now. Like these people I'm never going to see or talk to ever again, right? And that's kind of sad in its own way, but like it's hard to recreate that. And I sort of thought like, oh, this is like almost like it's not to the same magnitude, but it's the same essence of like the excitement of meeting a new person, right? And was a little bit of that there, but I think the only thing that made it a little bit down was, or less good, if that's the way to put it, is like I wanted to like crack out like, oh, so what do you think about the like Stephen Miller
You
administration?
felt like you can drop a bomb like that,
like
in 7 minutes.
Like it, you know, you want to get into, oh, like, you know, do you listen to the like what podcasts? Oh, do you know Econ Talk? Oh, what do you think of Sam Harris? You know, oh, what do you reckon about like the, you know, the latest like,
yeah.
you know, blow up between, you know, the MAGA movement and the, you know, like
definitely keep that to the men, maybe not the women.
Yeah, but it's like, and do you know what? Like, I actually read some of the profile descriptions afterwards, and actually there was like one lady that I talked to, and she had like in her profile, oh, I'm like obsessed with like the tragedy of US politics. I'm like, oh, if I'd read that, I would have like seized on that. But like, you know, and that could have been like a really good conversation. But yeah.
Well, you know what? I guess the final question I want to ask. One of them was I was going to ask whether you made any connections that you might hit up. You've answered that, but would you go to one again with me?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I'd go to another one of these. Like, in fact,
Are we going to pretend to be married or what?
Oh well, might make us more fruity, you know. In the as long as you bring your blue Mustang, light blue, baby blue.
That every time I come visit you in Brisbane, I'm going to rent that same Mustang until it gets decommissioned.
Next time, make sure it's a pink MX-5. That'll.
No, too dangerous.
I think I'll see what my wife says, but I could imagine going back to this as even just like because, and there's probably another part of this that we haven't talked about, which is like socializing as a couple, because we're married, right? And you can get in. Everyone's different, but like when you got kids and just the chore of life, right? You can get into a bit of a rut. Where you don't go out or you don't do things like maybe you have individually social networks or whatever, but you don't tend to go out and enjoy yourself as a couple. Actually, that's what I admired about this Irish couple. I don't know how long they were a couple together, but they just went out and they were just getting pissed right together. I was like, oh, like there's something in that, and I think that's having something like this to force yourself to go out. Yeah, I think there's merit in that.
Definitely, but what I'd be worried about in this setting is it the same where you go, I'm going to take the wife dancing, but then you go to some kind of dance and all it ends up is you dancing with a bunch of other random women and a bunch of other random men dance with your wife, and you don't spend any time together.
Well, we did get paired, and then when we got paired, we went and sat with the Irish couple.
Yeah, there you go.
But I think that's okay because you have lots of shoulder, and there was a time at the end where we were all sitting together at the table, like after the matching bit, you know, it's a little bit more sort of open and whatever. But
you feel quite drained by the end of it?
No, not really. Maybe more energized. Maybe that's part of the flip, right? Where flip the switch sort of thing, where you can have these kinds of sitting like events, like networking events or something, where you actually feel really drained because like it's emotionally exhausting or whatever. I think that's what for me, like alcohol's like in these settings has always been like I only had 2 beers, right? So it wasn't. That's
drunk. Why all the smack talk didn't come out about Trump.
Yeah, but
that was on the 3rd beer.
Just enough to like keep things a bit sort of
loose,
or just like relaxed, you know. And it didn't feel. And also, like I just had my standard approach was just like let them talk about themselves, and then when they say something, like one said about a food blog, and I said, oh yeah, like what do you like? Cooking, like, oh yeah, I like, you know, you let them drive.
Dale Carnegie on your shoulder.
Yeah, and then Do
you think that being a podcaster has helped you be more conversational?
Possibly. Not really.
Sure.
So one thing I missed the whole Tinder thing, right? Like I don't think
Tinder's that much about conversations, to be honest.
Well, but you have to go on Tinder dates, don't you? Like, I don't know. This is the thing. I don't really. It's completely missed me, right? So I I don't know. I have no experience like being in these situations where you go like dating random people, right? And so that's just missed me, right? So I've not had an experience in life where I've had to sort of, I've not been dating. Like I've not gone out dating women, right? Certainly not men. So the art of the conversation in these settings is quite new to me. And I just sort of, I mean, obviously you meet new people all the time in various other contexts, but in this context it was, and that's the other thing I felt like, what's the difference between flirting and just genuine like conversation? Like,
is it intent,
but like you can have like almost like a performative version of flirting, right? That might not have the same intent as flirting, but like there's some overlap, right? Like if you like you because at the end of the day you're trying to be charming, some version of charming, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the overlap is, right? It's like you can be charming because you're flirting, or you can be charming because you're just trying to
keep the conversation going.
Yeah, like
well, I mean, I 100% think there's some overlap. You know, from what I understand about colleagues and friends and their online dating experience, I think the bar is very, very low when it comes to the conversation for men. You know, the routine things that I hear when you get someone bitching or even just discussing their dating and using the apps is that men are rubbish. They don't ask them any questions at all. Like they'll sit in silence until the woman asks them a question, and they'll talk about, you know, very technical things and have no kind of ability to self-regulate the conversation into, well, what does this person sitting across from me want to talk about, you know, and no questions, no follow-ups. That's the kind of standard that I've heard that women complain about. But hey, that's just the ones that complain, maybe.
Well, you know what they say about all the best fish?
What?
They get caught first.
Not this labubu. If the fish was this labubu. All right, Anissa. I'm glad to confirm that you are not, in fact, a swinger, even though you are going speed dating with your wife in tow. But yeah, party on.
All right, over and out.